Isaac was born July 28th, 2020 to Mom Jenny and Dad Joseph. He was 6 pounds, 13 ounces, 20 inches long, and was born at 37 weeks. Isaac's pregnancy was very easy, and I felt very good throughout the 37 weeks. I was able to work all of that time and had very little sickness and felt pretty good the whole way through. Taking Isaac home was definitely a challenge and an adjustment for us as first-time parents. He was a wonderful baby. He ate well, slept like any baby would, and was doing all of the typical tiny baby things like finding his thumb and learning how to smile and just stealing the hearts of everybody around him. Maternity leave with Isaac was wonderful. We basically just stayed home and cuddled for all of that time since we were in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we didn't take him anywhere. I basically just stayed home with him and only went out when we absolutely had to, and just enjoyed every moment with him. Isaac is definitely an answered prayer. Joseph and I were ready to become parents and struggled a little bit because I have PCOS. And so I had a surgery to correct that, and it was very successful. And we were able to conceive within 2 cycles after that surgery. And it was just a wonderful miracle. And we, couldn't be happier to have him. And throughout the entire pregnancy, I would fall asleep just saying the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again, and knowing that God was in control and that we were good. Isaac is definitely loved by a lot of people. We had many different showers for him, so many cards, so many gifts, so many words of encouragement and prayers, and just a flood of support surrounding us from the moment we shared our desire to become pregnant, and throughout the entire pregnancy and through the delivery and just the entire journey so far. We've been so blessed with people to take care of us as we take care of Isaac, especially during a pandemic. Isaac is definitely a gift from God in a very dark time. With the COVID-19 pandemic and through the election, he has brought us back to what's truly important, and that is depending on God. And we did dedicate Isaac to Christ, and we take that very seriously. And all of our family is supportive in that, which is wonderful. And we hope that throughout Isaac's entire journey and his entire life that we can always use our faith in God to get us through every step of the way. As I got closer to going back to work after maternity leave, I really struggled with the idea of leaving Isaac with anybody other than myself. And I kind of put off finding daycare until kind of the last minute, really. And even then, God came through and provided with a phenomenal daycare. Our provider's name is Gabby. She's an in-home daycare provider. She's so good with little Isaac, and we couldn't be happier with how everything worked out. We finally got settled into a routine with Isaac and going to work and getting him back and forth to daycare. And then about it at 3.5 months, everything changed. On November 11th, 2020, while Joseph was feeding Isaac, he noticed some abnormal movement and told me that night that he was worried and that we needed to call the doctor. And having Joseph worried made me sick with worry, and I didn't sleep very well that night. And then the next morning, I caught this video while getting ready to take Isaac to daycare, and not seeing this before was incredibly scary. And so we took him to the emergency room per the advice of the doctor's office when we called them. Working at the hospital made taking Isaac to the emergency room a little bit easier because I knew everybody that was taking care of him. While we were there, we had a CT scan in the ER as well as some lab work, and they decided to admit him overnight for observation. And while he was in the hospital, he did have another seizure. And so we started him on some medicine that would hopefully help that, and it did. So they sent us home, and everything seemed to be going really good. Isaac kind of was back to his normal self. Didn't see any other activities, so I took a few days off of work just to be with him and make sure that everything was okay.
It's a little baby Isaac.
Everything is good.
Yeah. Yes. Oh. Oh. Hi. Oh. Oh. Got hiccups? Hiccups? Oh. Hi. Ah. Hi. Whoop. What?
A few days after being home, I noticed Isaac doing some other abnormal things that I hadn't seen before. So I kept calling around and trying to get a hold of Omaha because we had a referral to see a neurologist after our stay in the hospital. And after a while, I did get a hold of a doctor, and he was wonderful and called us directly and got all of Isaac's information and kind of what was going on, and was able to see some videos. So he decided to go ahead and send us up to Omaha. As soon as the doctor gave us the go-ahead, we got in the car and drove 3 hours to Children's Hospital in Omaha. And when we got there, they got Isaac hooked up to a video EEG to monitor his brain, and also did a lot of lab work. During the time there, we had X-ray, MRI, ultrasound, spinal tap to look at his spinal fluid, and we were there for a few days. Ultimately, we got the diagnosis of polymicrogyria, which is a brain malformation. That means his brain has too many small folds, and was like that from very early in his development. And they say that I did nothing to cause that, so I try to believe that. So we were sent home, and with a referral for a medication to treat his infantile spasms, which were the little weird jerky movements that were alarming to me. Currently, there's only 2 FDA-approved treatments for infantile spasms, and that includes vigabatrin, also known as Sabril, and ACTH, which is a hormone treatment. Both of these treatments are extremely expensive. We were told that one dose, or 1 month, I guess, of the Sabril was around $30,000. And so that's the one we tried first because it was a third of the price of the other treatment. So, and it was just a little bit less aggressive, and so we wanted to start out that way. So they sent the referral, and started the prior authorization with our insurance, and that process was just kind of a nightmare from the very beginning, getting it to the right pharmacy with the right, red tape here and there and everywhere else. I made well over 50, close to 100 phone calls between pharmacies and insurance offices and doctors' offices to navigate and make sure everybody was communicating and had everything they possibly needed to get this medicine for my son. We finally started the medication about 2 weeks after we were hospitalized, and it seemed to help. His spasms did get better. They were not causing his oxygen to drop or change color any longer, which is really great. And they were less frequent in shorter episodes. Unfortunately, they didn't go away, and Isaac had a repeat EEG on December 28th, which showed that he still had some of the hips arrhythmia, which is the unique brain pattern that indicates infantile spasms. So we were sent to Omaha again to start ACTH treatment, which is a hormone treatment that helps the inflammation in the brain, and the doctors can't really say why, but it just seems to help with infantile spasms. So we were admitted on the 1st of the year with a new insurance company that has been phenomenal to work with, and Isaac started his treatment, and the first few days were kind of rough. It made him very irritable, and so he would just scream for hours. And then finally on day 4 or day 5, Joseph and I kind of got our little boy back, and we walked into his hospital room on the 4th floor there and finally found some smiles from our Isaac after many days of just kind of being sedated and medicated. So having his personality back was probably the best thing that could have possibly come out of all of this. It's the least that we could ask for. It brought so much joy. We were in the hospital with Isaac with the ACTH for 10 days because while we were there, he kind of started having some abnormal activity. So they did go ahead and hook him up to a video EEG to kind of rule out any infantile spasms or adverse effects from the medication. So he was hooked up to the video EEG for a couple days, over 48 hours. And during that time, we were working on getting the treatment at the house approved through insurance, and the process was so much better the second time around, even though the medication was 3 times the price. So we finally got Isaac stabilized with his phenobarbital levels, lab levels, that got a little bit wonky, and we were discharged finally on the 10th of January. The ACTH treatment can cause high blood pressure and some other concerning symptoms, so they don't like kids to be on it for very long. So I stayed home with Isaac for another week to kind of monitor him and see his progress. On January 15th, we did a repeat EEG to see his progress, and the doctor was happy with his results and what she saw on the test. So she gave us instructions to start tapering the medication to lower and lower doses less frequently until ultimately taking him off of the ACTH. Isaac did go 2 days without seizure activity, but on the first day of the ACTH taper,
have a good day.
we noticed more seizure
You got
activity.
rosy cheekies. Yes, you got rosy cheekies. Hi, boo.
He's having a spasm. Oh, he's doing his thing. I actually caught him going into it. I mean, I don't know if that's considered focal or spasm, because it's a long duration, but it's multiple little... Currently, we are holding off on the ACTH taper, and we're going to keep him on it for just a few more days and see what happens. We don't know what our future holds, but we know that God is with us throughout all of this, and we will do whatever necessary to give Isaac the best life possible. Thank you for taking the time to watch the story about Isaac, and all that I can ask for is continued good vibes and prayers, and that the medical team can get this taken care of as soon as humanly possible so we can get Isaac on track to a healthy early development.